Today is the 18th of June. Happy Father's Day, which was yesterday, and Happy Mother's Day every day.
Yes.
We're going to take item number 2 first.
Committee members,
Joined by, excuse me, I forgot that. Joined by Joe Buscaino. Buscaino. That's out there. Councilman of the 15th District.
Under item 2, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval a replacement or successor permit, which is number 861, with California Sulfur Company for the continuing operation of a sulfur processing facility in East Wilmington on Harbor Department-owned property. The permit would have a term of 10 years, would generate at least $773,000 in annual rent revenues, or approximately $7.7 million over 10 years.
Very good. You have a report?
Good morning. My name is Ragnar Globus with the Port of Los Angeles. And as Christine said, it's a continuing permit for Cal Sulfur Company. It's a sulfur processing facility that uses the byproduct of the refineries around the area and then turns it into fertilizer. And it's a 10-year agreement. And if you have any questions.
Hey, give me a little more background. Where is it located? How much? Wilmington?
Wilmington District.
I think of sulfur, I think of like a yellowish green pile. Is that kind of sulfur?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, it's just processing it, getting it ready for use as mostly for fertilizer.
And the AKMD is very familiar with this?
Yes, and also in regards to this facility, we also put in some requirements where they're going to be using, better fuel for their equipment and transportation, trucks and stuff.
All right, we've got to be better than just trucks and stuff, or just the whole, you got to make their green footprint
their
larger.
transportation of it, and
Got it.
the operations in the facility, their forklifts and stuff like that.
How long have we had that operation?
It's been there for more than 30 years.
More than 30 years. Councilman, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we cover sulfur? I mean, I remember the big coal issue back there growing up in the harbor area, but can we do the same for sulfur? I mean, is that... Because I know they're visible, the piles of sulfur there in Wilmington.
Yeah, in this case, it's a facility again, which takes the byproducts from the oil refineries and puts it to a different use. In regards to the coal, we had LAX
I remember that, right.
point, and that basically didn't it didn't work. And what the Bay now has is Long Beach has that a facility like that takes care of all the needs in regards to coke.
But the wind doesn't blow sulfur. Doesn't.
I'm sorry.
The wind, does the wind take it off?
No,
okay.
it's not. It's not
Heavy.
something that it's fully captured. It's not something that the wind, it's not pulverized to a point where it just gets picked up by the wind.
I see. Okay, thank you.
This is a question. See, I saw in Vancouver, they have a pile, it's this yellow-green, but I know Wilmington not nearly as great as the councilman of the 15th. But there's no pile. Is there a visible pile?
There is a visible pile, but it's not a huge pile.
And it's not covered?
It's not covered at this time.
You got sprinklers in case you need to cover it, or?
Again, it's not easily just blown by.
But it doesn't pick up and go.
Yeah, it doesn't.
How many complaints have you had at this location?
From my tenure at the port, I haven't heard any complaints from the neighbors. It's a mostly industrial area.
Good, okay. Thank you. Mr. CAO.
Yeah, Alvin Newman, CAO's office. It's my understanding that the port has been in negotiation with California Sulfur Company for several years because of the environmental concerns and remediations. They've included language within the contract to mitigate any type of potential hazards or problems that could happen, and that includes restricting them to certain streets. Also, in the event that there is any sulfur spill, that they will immediately clean it up, and that's all a part of the contract.
Great. So recommend approval? Yes, sir. So ordered. We're to be joined shortly. Thank you very much. Is there another item other than one?
Item 1,
No, item 3?
no.
Any public comment here today? Why don't you give me your public comment? Tell me about your high school career at Mary's. We're waiting for Councilman Bill Rosendahl, so we're gonna drag this out. Let's take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. This meeting will reconvene at 10:25. The 11th District, this meeting is back in session. Recess has been completed. It's 10:25. And boy, wouldn't it be nice if life was recess completed 10:25. We're going back into Mrs. Johnson's 5th grade classroom after recess.
Yeah, I remember
Life
that.
was
That was a lot
excellent.
of fun, wasn't it?
Good time. Good
Thank
time.
you, Mr. Chair, because I had the medical emergency in the ambulance.
Oh, you got it all.
Got him
Everybody's
back
gonna
out.
be okay.
Everything is fine, so I appreciate that.
Good. Could you read into the record number 1, please?
Yes, under item 1, we have consideration of a concession agreement between Los Angeles World Airports and Advanced Wireless Group, LLC, to upgrade, operate, and maintain the public wireless internet system in the public areas of the airline terminals at LAX. The proposed concessionaire has agreed to provide free internet access as well as premium pay-for-use access pending completion of a request for proposals process for award of a more permanent concession agreement. The proposed interim agreement would have a term of 2 years with a 1-year renewal option and would generate a minimum annual guarantee of concession fees of $283,333 in the first year and a total of $663,000 and then some over the term of 2 years. On Tuesday, June 12th, the council adopted motion Buscaino-Zine to assert jurisdiction over the Board of Airport Commissioners' action on June 4th to approve this concession agreement. Council has until Tuesday, July 3rd to veto the board's action or to concur with it, or the board's action will stand.
Very good. Could I have the airport department? Good morning.
Morning.
Can you give us a general report?
Sure. Steve Martin, Chief Operating Officer of Los Angeles World Airports. If it's okay with you, I was going to cover 3 different things. What happens if the board's action is overturned? What happens if the board's action is not overturned? And why we think that the result is the best result in a fair process.
I understand. Just tell us first generally, 60 seconds, what's before us. And let me just paraphrase what I believe to be information true. Management at LAX saw an opportunity to immediately solve a gap in service to the many, many millions of people who come through LAX, and they do something creative, which the city attorney's office approved to be correct and proper. They do this at Water Power, they do it at the harbor, we should do it more in City Hall. They see an existing contract out there, and they piggyback to that contract to get the service immediately, but in a few months, be it within 36 months or less, the whole thing's going to be bid out again. Is that basically it?
Yes, that's generally correct.
Got it. So you could fill in the points on that, because this was an opportunity to fill a gap that would not be filled unless this piggyback took place.
Okay. Our goal has been to get free Wi-Fi for the passengers at LAX, and that has been a goal for a while. We have had an existing agreement with T-Mobile that is the only option is to pay for each session. Our long-term goal is to develop what's called a distributed antenna system, which requires an investment of about $20 million in order to complete. That is a big procurement for us to undertake. Since the T-Mobile contract is going to expire on July 18th, and we have to complete a process to get to this distributed antenna system, we sought to have an interim or a bridge solution which is what we have before you now. That interim bridge solution probably cost $600,000 to $800,000 of investment. The contract that we put together with AWG was a byproduct of a San Francisco competitive process that we piggybacked on, and they would be ready to install enough equipment by July 18th in order to have Wi-Fi in place on a continuous basis. The delays that we're incurring through this process, or if we get further delayed, we will, if we don't get this done, have no Wi-Fi for the public on July 19th.
Let me ask a technical question. Are there other piggyback contracts in your business that you could example us right now?
Yeah, we have a lot of contracts that we join, technically. They're supply contracts, generally speaking, for all kinds of things where some other entity, government entity, not even in the state of California, may have run a competitive process, and we join that contract at rates that were established through that competitive process. In fact, the payments that would come to us under the proposed contract from AWG are derived from the payments they proposed in the San Francisco contract. We did not ask them for some other rates. We simply scaled the San Francisco payments to the level of traffic at LAX to derive the payment. So it's the same way that we, in general, piggyback off of other jurisdictional contracts.
Got it. Okay. And we got the members, you understand what we're talking about?
Right.
Now, I got to ask some questions here. And these were questions, Steve, that I'm going to ask you. Is AWG a neutral host provider of Wi-Fi services?
Yeah, AWG does not have subscribers to their system. They provide the Wi-Fi services, and other subscription providers, AT&T, Boingo, iPass, Skype, and others, can have their systems hosted on the AWG system. When you see the screen, you click on a button, that takes you to one of those subscription services. So they're neutral in that they're not advocating for their own subscribers.
Got it. Will Boingo be able to serve its customers through the agreement between AWG and LA World Airports?
Yeah, Boingo is one of the roaming or subscription services that will be accessible through click on a button as soon as you get on, so their customers will have free service.
And did Boingo have an opportunity to provide this service?
Boingo was the exclusive licensee of JC2Co up until, I believe, February of this year, where we had been working with JC2Co to have a sponsored free Wi-Fi at the airport. JC2Co picked Boingo. We negotiated with them for 3 or 4 months. That agreement did not come to fruition due to reasons that the city attorney made a determination that we couldn't go forward the way we planned, and Boingo, through JC2Co, informed us that they were no longer interested in that opportunity. So they had an opportunity to be the exclusive provider through JC2Co.
And how long after Boingo turned down the opportunity with LA Airports, World Airports, did Boingo fail to contact you?
The email we have from JC2Co saying that they and their subcontractor Boingo was in February, and the first we heard from Boingo after that was in at the June board meeting. So we had posted the contract for approval by the board in May. We did actually not move forward on that. We withdrew the item and deferred it in the board meeting in May. It was reposted in a meeting in June, and Boingo showed up at a subsequent board meeting and registered their dissatisfaction with the result.
How much investment is being done under the intern contract?
Somewhere between $600,000 and $800,000, where we would have to buy out that investment if we early terminate.
By AWG?
By AWG, yes. Right. There's none by the city.
And how much investment will be there when LAWA, Los Angeles World Airports, completes the RFP process for the distribution antenna system?
That's about a $20 million investment. It's a complete reworking of the fiber and the antenna systems in the terminals. It's about $20 million, which is why it's a big procurement for us.
And that's scheduled to take place when?
Well, we're planning to start the drafting of the RFP immediately. We think it'll take, a year to 2 to complete the process, and then there is about, 9 months of, engineering work that needs to be done to install it. So we think it's a 2-year.
Yeah, the best chance would be 20 months, 24 months. I mean, everything went right, all the stars aligned, and the worst could be 36, 40 months.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And what is your view of restarting this process? The same thing you talked about right there, compared to starting, you could get service now when?
July 19th, when
July
T-Mobile,
19th.
when T-Mobile goes dark, we will have service.
You could have service with the San Francisco piggyback operation.
It's technically a derivative of a piggyback, but yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Those are some interesting points. Mr. Rosendahl, Councilman of the District, any questions?
Well, at this point, Mr. Chair, since you did an excellent set of questions, I would like to hear from the two proposals or somebody before I even ask questions, which I have some, but I'd like to see responses to your questions. Especially for me, was that process was open, there was a click away and that kind of stuff that went through these questions. I just would love to know what this.
But I want to hear from the Airport Department. The Airport Department
has to say before I speak.
Airport Department and its management, under many council members, especially Mr. Rosendahl, tried to get Wi-Fi into the airport, said this is an opportunity, and your board reviewed this and through a public process. And there was a gap of time that maybe someone could have raised their hand or jumped into the pool, but they chose not to, and they jumped in as the pool has been changed, so to speak, is that we've taken a direction, and now we want to try to halt that direction based on that. So I feel comfortable that management has created an opportunity to serve the public immediately in this issue of Wi-Fi, and I feel comfortable with the city attorney. Mr. Alarcon, though, were there when he had those questions, our colleague of the 7th District in council?
You addressed me, Councilman?
Yes.
Yes. Tim Daze, Assistant General Counsel for the Department of Airports. I was in council that day, and Suzanne Tracy, Deputy City Attorney assigned to the Department of Airports, was also there. She was at the table. And
Right.
she was addressing Mr. Alarcon's questions.
Right.
And we believe that the process that the Board of Airport Commissioners went through, based upon the information that was given to the City Attorney's Office by the Department, was accurate.
But I don't see that as unusual. I thought, from my colleague from the 7th, it was like a process that was new. I've heard of this often where they piggyback and opportunities. Is this an unusual process?
Not at all.
Yeah, okay.
As a matter of fact, I believe that there was several of the utility contracts that the department has, like for telephone services and things of that general nature, that the department uses to reduce down the costs that the department would otherwise have to pay more money had they gone on their own process.
Right. Very good. Madam City Attorney,
I was just going to
it's a
add-
great scarf you got on.
Oh, thank you. From my husband, he'll be pleased.
You got it. You tell him he's good. You're good to him yesterday. It's Father's Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to make the point also that when we say a piggyback, that the piggyback on the San Francisco contract was the origin of this, but it is a modified piggyback, and the actual finding is under 371E10. But yes, it does piggyback, but under a different section.
Right. I got it.
Is this a piggyback, Mr. Chair, or a sole source contract? If the city attorney can answer that. Is it a piggyback contract or a sole source contract? And if so, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, I would say here that it's blended, because the attempt was to piggyback on the competitive process of San Francisco, which is the method that this started. Because the San Francisco procurement is a lease, the analysis was made under 371E10, which is what we discussed during council, which is an exception. And I read the section. I know that you folks heard it during council. So it started as a piggyback and then is actually found, the findings are made under 371E10.
And you're totally comfortable with that?
We've vetted it all the way up. We have the assistant.
Got it. Very good.
general counsel,
Super.
general
Pete Echeverria knows about this, right?
Yes, he does.
The toughest guy over there. Pete says okay, and I'm okay. All righty. So, let's have a public comment card, and members, after we do some public
I
comment,
look forward to bringing it back.
then if you want to call them up, you can. You
I
want
have
to
a few
ask
questions for
a few
Marley.
questions? Los Angeles Airport, sit back.
Couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we know, we're here today because City Council was unanimous in agreeing that we should take a second look at this contract for public Wi-Fi. Two things that concern me right away about the sole source contract is that it just doesn't seem to be maximizing the airport's revenues, and we need a sole source contract, and didn't even talk to local companies to do just that. And on top of that, this contract will be in place for 3 years, my understanding, up to 3 years, while we wait for a long-term solution at the airport. Also, my colleagues agreed that this contract didn't really seem like it was the best deal for the airport. And here we are today to take a closer look at the contract. Just a couple questions I had. How much is a contractor willing to pay to build out this temporary network so that we can be assured it won't crash when switching from a pay Wi-Fi to a free public Wi-Fi?
If I can answer that particular
Please,
question.
thank you.
The expected investment is $600,000 to $800,000. The way the contract is structured is to meet a performance specification. Otherwise, it's a default under the contract. And so we're not technical experts on this stuff, so we took the San Francisco performance specification that was in the contract in San Francisco and put it in this contract, rather than us saying, you have to spend $500,000, because we don't know what the amount of money it takes to provide this. So we put in the performance specification,
Right.
not the amount of money.
Got it. What do we know about the financial stability of AWG, and how many employees do they have? Do they have enough money and cash flow to support the needed investment?
I don't know the answer to that. The San Francisco competitive process made the determination that they were able to make that kind of investment, and we just relied on that.
So you're just basing it on the San Francisco
Competitive process,
okay.
yes.
And how do we know that they won't shortchange us on the infrastructure upgrade?
Well, they have to, as I said, they have to meet this performance requirement in terms of speed and reliability, and otherwise it's a default under the agreement, then they lose what they have invested. So we're relying on that, just like San Francisco.
And when will all work be completed and free Wi-Fi service start? And will it be at all terminals, and how long until there's free Wi-Fi at the entire airport?
There's a initial set of work that has to happen before T-Mobile is turned off, which is
By mid-July, right?
July 15th. And so we will have free Wi-Fi on July 16th. It will be capacity limited at that time. There's 2 more months of additional improvements that need to be done. And in September, we should have a free Wi-Fi airport-wide that is not capacity limited. So
Great.
It'll be free immediately, but because of the shortfalls in the system, the capacity will be limited.
And lastly, thank you for that. What happens if the network does not perform as well as expected? How is LAWA measuring performance?
The performance requirements in the contract is how we're measuring, which is speed and reliability. It's the same performance requirements as SFO.
Right. And before we move on to our next speakers, like my colleagues, we just want the best deal possible for the airport and for the city. Go ahead.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
Because we relied on the San Francisco contract, we did not say to AWG, what's the maximum amount of money you can give us? We took what the competitive process in San Francisco produced a payment to the city of San Francisco. We simply said, let's scale that payment up to the equivalent number of passengers at LAX, which is greater. So it simply scaled off of it. It was not an attempt to maximize the income to allow us attempt to maximize the service, which was to have an uninterrupted service. So we did not go beyond what San Francisco got out of their competitive process in terms of money.
And AWG is a worldwide company. I mean, I know they service hundreds of airports.
I know they have at least 12 airports in the U.S. I don't know if they're worldwide, but they have, major airports, Boston, San Francisco, and other airports.
Chicago.
So they're not a newcomer to airports, and they're not a newcomer to transitions from T-Mobile, which is our other big concern. The T-Mobile system at the airport is a bit of a home-built kind of system, if you will, and converting it into something reliable requires expertise that they've demonstrated they have at other airports.
So knowing that the infrastructure that will be in place, why will it take so long for the RFP? Why can't we do an RFP in 2 weeks?
Well, the RFP we're talking about is the distributed antenna system RFP.
The DS,
the one
right.
that leads to $20 million of investment. Getting that right is pretty important and pretty difficult, in part because that distributed antenna system will also support all of our operations, including police, fire, and other wireless operations we have. So the distributed antenna system that we seek to get to in 2 years or 3 years with full implementation is a multi-user system, including public safety and security issues that we want to get technically right, and we don't want to put a quick RFP out without a lot of review and thought. That's the RFP we're talking about.
I appreciate that. And just, as we know, colleagues, we want the best possible service and or deal for the airport, and not only for the airport, but citywide. We just want the best for what we pay for, of course, and if we're able to benefit from other companies, please, have at it.
Hey, is there Wi-Fi down at the?
We do have Wi-Fi at the port.
At Port of Los Angeles. When
At
they
least
come
in the cruise terminals.
Yeah,
yes.
are there?
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Is it free? I don't know if it's free.
Should all be free. But anyway, Mr. Rosenthal, we're going to have a public comment.
Great.
Before the airport gets away, Tom Bradley is spending $1 billion plus out there right now. Tom Bradley International Airport. Is that having the Wi-Fi installed in it right now, or is it have to wait for this?
No, we as part of that project in the new building, and we're
New
putting
building.
in all new Wi-Fi capability as part of the construction project.
Right.
The difficulties we have are all the old buildings and the old
Yeah,
infrastructure.
I got it.
Yeah.
Very well.
Okay.
Let me call these cards here. Tim McCosker, you take a seat. Zach Centigrade, is that right? Sterngold, all right.
All right.
Kobe Goff, is that right? And Don Callahan and Scott Phillips. So 2 minutes each. Who wants to start?
Thank you, Councilman and members. Tim McCosker, I'll start. First of all, I'm here with 3 members from Boingo, Zach, Colby, and Don. We're together as a team. Mayor Brown, representing Boingo Wireless.
Mayor Brown, a law office.
Mayor Brown, LLP, a law.
I say Mayor Brown, I think of San Francisco. So,
Not Jerry or Willie, Mayor Brown, a law office. Thank you. Appreciate the difficult situation that you're in, having the 245 in front of you. Everybody only wants the best service and as quickly as possible without interruption. I want to go back to the point, though, of what this is. This is not a piggyback. And I think it was clarified, but I want to be very clear, and I will read from the staff report that came from the staff of the Airport Commission to the Airport Commission. LAWA staff sought to join the SFO contracting to provide free Wi-Fi services. Continuing down the paragraph, however, the SFO transaction was structured as a lease instead of a concession agreement, and therefore LAWA could not use a contract joining approach. It is not a piggyback. And it could not use this approach from another governmental entity, and then it goes into the sole source. So let's be clear. This is a sole source provision, which is a process under your charter, just as 245 is, by the way. It is a process under your charter. What's important, though, is for you to be able to make findings, and we'll come back to that. I want to just respond to use your time well, I want to respond to a few things you just heard. What you just heard is that the provider selected will probably be spending $600,000 to $800,000. It's probably because there is no requirement in the contract to spend, there's no dollar amount. There's a performance standard, but there's no dollar amount and there is no schedule. In the contract before you, you have no schedule and you have no dollar requirement to be spent. You also have just spent, we all talk about delay, we've just spent 1 week. 1 week to see whether or not you can get the best possible deal at the best possible price from the best possible provider. And we have submitted to you today a proposal that does all of those things. Because you went to a sole source, you do have the ability to negotiate with this party. You could do a quick RFP process. You could do a request. You can put out the contract, and you could say, we've put in 6 blanks. We want you to fill up those blanks. We'll send it out to Boingo and have them come back with the best possible deal, which you would have in front of you. And I will also say, there is no July 19th in the agreement. We all are focused on July 19th. It is not in the agreement. When the airport comes back up, ask them, what guarantees July 19th? Where will there be wireless? What terminals? What customers?
Thank you very much.
Council members, good morning, and thank you for your time today. My name is Zach Sterngold with Boingo Wireless, and I think the one thing we can all agree on is that LAX is overdue and is in urgent need of a new Wi-Fi system, and that's the service that we provide. The question is how to get there. The airport has signed an agreement with a small out-of-town company that really has no scope of work and has no schedule. And LAX is a complex implementation. Our engineers have been there, walked the site, and know the site. And you have a very aggressive timeline. It's very reasonable to believe there's a significant gap between your expectations and what AWG is able to and is willing to deliver. So we've submitted a proposal from the world's leader in providing Wi-Fi services, a company based right here in LA. that we hope that you will consider. We've known about this a week. We can talk about what happened with JC2Co. We are very motivated to work with the airport, and we always have been. So we urge you to consider this. We put this together in a week. We think it's very compelling. We're offering you more money, a better revenue share, and a minimum guarantee on the investment. $800,000 up to $2.5 million, because we think it's going to be more expensive than what we've heard today. And we think you're at risk with only $600,000, $800,000 of a very poor performing Wi-Fi system. So we're asking for a couple days and good faith from city staff to see if we can work something out. And if we can't, that's fair. We're asking for a fair shot, and that's all. And we can move very quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I get your 10 seconds?
Yeah, you get the extra 11 seconds.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Colby Goff. I'm Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy for Boingo Wireless. I've been with the company since inception. We founded the company here in 2001 in Los Angeles with 4 employees. Over the last 12 years, we've built that company to be over 150 employees, 120 of which are located right here in Westwood in our headquarters today. After 11 years of building this company up, we've been fortunate in that last year we were able to take the company public. We're now traded on the NASDAQ stock exchange under the ticker symbol Wi-Fi. And a big driver for taking it public was to raise public funds to go invest in more network deployments. That's our focus. I think we are very grateful that we've been able to build this company in a very Silicon Valley-esque way right here in our own city. Philosophically, from the beginning of the company, we've been focused on connecting people to public Wi-Fi networks as easily as possible. That means we've invested tens of millions of dollars over the last decade into software that facilitates that access, as well as into building out a global network. Today, we are by far the leader. We have over 500,000 hotspots in over 100 countries around the world, and in the airport space specifically, we are clearly the leader. Over 40% of all North American enplanements go through one of our airports where we have infrastructure on an annual basis. 25% of all enplanements in Western Europe go through one of our airports on an annual basis. Over 1 billion people go through one of our airports on an annual basis that has our Wi-Fi infrastructure. I want to correct something that Zach just touched on for a second. We never heard anything back from or anything about JC2Co. We didn't know anything more about that. Last year we had some discussions with them, but it went silent, and we reached out to the CIO of the airport starting this year and never was responded to, so we didn't know anything about that.
Told there would be an RFP.
Told there'd be an RFP. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Don.
Totally what?
The response back was it will not move forward with JC2Co. There will be an RFP process.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Callahan. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Boingo Wireless. As Tim alluded to, one of the concerns that we have is awarding this sort of sole source contract with a company that doesn't have any specialized expertise. And in fact, we believe that we are uniquely qualified in this space because we've developed products and services in the Wi-Fi industry that nobody else has. For example, so let's imagine you're at JFK. You don't go there very often. You are headed back to a flight at LAX. You've got to get a sandwich because it's like 5 hours sitting on that plane, and you have no idea where to get a good sandwich at JFK. What are you going to do? We developed an app called Around Me. Basically, the traveler just plugs in what their flight is. We tell them everything that's around their gate, what shopping is available, what dining is available, where to get your shoe shine. It's called Around Me. It's very, very cool. The other thing we've done is, for example, let's say you want to download a movie before you get back on your plane. You know that at home that's going to take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to download a movie to your iPad. Well, we're actually piloting a program now where you can download a movie at the airport in 5 minutes. And one of the great things about doing that is then we revenue share that revenue back to the airport, our airport partners. We have we've developed a shopping portal. So let's say you're using that free Wi-Fi service while you're sitting at LAX, and you're shopping online. So what we do is we've got an affiliate program that allows us to revenue share that revenue back to the airport while they're using the free Wi-Fi service. This is just one of a number of different things that we do that nobody in this space does. There's a reason why Boingo has been named the best Wi-Fi service in the world for the last 2 years, and we would love to partner with you and bring those products and services to LAWA. And Tim, one more comment from you.
Yeah, I'll just use the last 13 seconds. I think what you heard, and these are all great reasons to move forward. I think what you heard in the staff report from your staff was that you have the worst of both possible worlds, the worst possible. You did not piggyback. You moved to a sole source, and then you didn't negotiate. The whole point to a sole source is that you can get the best deal. You didn't.
We're going to ask some questions. Just to let you know, I love Los Angeles people, and all of that, but also there's a process, and I do believe in the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Rosendahl has some questions he's going to ask, I believe, at this time.
I would like, if I could,
Yeah.
the other folks to speak, and then our attorneys and staff to react before I open my mouth. I'm
Very well.
listening right now as to the
Getting this back.
questions you guys have asked and the answers I'm getting. I just want to go through.
All right, I only have one other card, but I think they noted with Staff Assistant Schechter that they wanted to speak last out there. Everybody spoke. Does Scott Phillips want to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, council members. I'm Scott Phillips. I'm CEO of Advanced Wireless Group, and we are the company recommended for award of this agreement. Just wanted to share with you a little bit about us and who we are, in case it hasn't been told. We've been in business since 2004. We're the largest operator of free Wi-Fi in U.S. airports. We do operate 12 U.S. airports, ranging from small airports, but also airports in size of San Francisco, Miami, Boston, not small airports. We have extensive experience in transitioning infrastructure that was previously paid to free. We know what we're doing. We understand the investment that needs to be made. The LAWA agreement calls for a performance spec in terms of speed and what people will need, what needs to be delivered to both free customers and paid customers. So that's what's driving the investment. The investment is estimated so far, based upon recent experience in a San Francisco and a Boston, of converting at 700,000 to 900,000 is about where we are. However, committed to the performance spec that we have with these passengers, it may well run higher than that, and we are obligated to spend whatever it takes to meet that performance. Okay. We serve right now airports with Wi-Fi available to 270 million passengers and service about over 35,000 sessions per day. So the 750,000, 700,000 to 900,000 we're going to bring in so far are Florida dollars that we're happy to bring in here to LA County and infuse into your economy. So that's all I wanted to share with you. And thank you for your time.
Nope, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Not yet.
If you sit right there, Zach, sit right next to this gentleman right there. Just ask this question. Let me just ask, I'm trying to figure this thing out, okay?
Hey, Zach, how are you?
Okay. You guys ever meet before?
We've not. I met Zach's
good.
predecessor.
All right, very good.
Not met Zach.
So, our Department of Airports in their commission says we want to get this thing done, okay? And all of a sudden, they look at this group right here and say these guys could get it done based on experience that they had in San Francisco in the professional world. But if in a 2-year period or 3-year period, the whole thing's going to be rebid. Is that right, Steve?
Yes.
So I'm just saying, I'm interested as chair to serve the passengers of Los Angeles International Airport as soon as possible in this technology advancement of Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi at the public space of the airport. That being said, to me, if they could go now, that's the flight, that's going to get me home right now. Yeah, if I have to choose you, and I like you because you're from L.A., not that I don't like you because you're not from L.A., but I like L.A. guys, okay, L.A. girls, L.A. women, Jim Morrison, everything. All right, I had to get that out. I know, I just had to get it out. So the point I'm trying to make here is it's real simple. The airport department vetted this, but all of a sudden someone's running up to the gate saying, I can give you a better pass. And we're already we've already checked our bags, we've already gone through TSA, we're already got our seat assignment, and we're ready to take off. So this is what is my trouble. But I appreciate you both. And I think now we're going to ask for another round of questions.
Can I comment on
Yeah, make a comment.
I would like to hear what AWG has accomplished that allows them to do this faster when we have all of our resources, our staff in LA, $100 million in the bank. We have a fast plane.
I think we're going to ask that of the department staff. I don't want to put you guys in a,
Oh, okay.
we're not in a,
I just don't know that, we found out late, and the flight hasn't taken off yet, and I don't
but it's
see
already at
where
the gate. I mean, it's way up you're not on Century Boulevard anymore. You're way up the gate. All right, go down and relax, fellas. Let's,
Did you want to respond to what he just said?
no, I don't think so.
Okay, I'll defer to law.
Yeah, but I'd like the department, airport staff to come back
I
up.
have some questions for Boingo.
Okay, but let's get the airport staff just back up right now. We're going to go back and forth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a couple clarifications, all good people in this room. There are, I'm sure there's other bodies would love to be here like Bongo is, correct? I mean, if they wanted to jump on the business, if you're...
Yeah, we know that the San Francisco competitive process had 4 proposals in it.
Right.
And we would assume that if, this doesn't go forward as the Board of Airport Commissioners approved it and we revisit it, we're going to have to open it up to more than just, Boingo negotiation.
Right. I just want to clarify. We have somebody who you think could do it right now. And the city attorney's office, based on their review of the law, feels comfortable that this is a way for us to go and we get it right now. But then within a period of time, this whole thing's going to be bid out again, correct? This is I don't want to call it a Band-Aid, but this is a stopgap method of trying to provide Wi-Fi.
This is a bridge to provide Wi-Fi to the passengers, but we need a much bigger infrastructure investment on the order of $20 million that we hope to start the RFP process as soon as we get done with this, to get on with that. And so we're hoping to get that all done and installed within a couple of years. So this is simply a bridge to that outcome.
Right. Okay. Not a bridge to nowhere, a bridge to Wi-Fi.
But you never know.
Okay, good. I want to get that out. Okay.
I'm troubled, Mr. Chair. Why can't we still do a mini RFP on this?
I should let the city attorney.
My colleague, Mr. Rosendahl, and my predecessor, Janice Hahn, worked for years to get this moving and to get free Wi-Fi at LAX. And yet, the last 6 years, here we are pushing this. I mean, why in the last 6 years, while they're fighting for this, we've come to this day? I mean, where we're just fast-tracking this.
Well, we had an attempt to use the advertising sponsorship contractor, JC&Co. To be the vehicle for free Wi-Fi, and we ran into an obstacle, which is the city attorney said that agreement couldn't work the way we originally proposed it. By that time, it was pretty late in the game, and so we went to the San Francisco competitive process to find a solution, which the city attorney agreed with, and the board approved. So it was, and plus we're trying to do just a bridge solution. We're not trying to solve every Wi-Fi problem at the airport in this exercise. We're just trying to make sure the passengers have Wi-Fi. But there are a lot of other operational and public safety Wi-Fi applications at the airport that would be in this distributed antenna system. So we're there because of a couple of dead ends that we went down, and then we reached out and used a parallel competitive process to find AWG.
Are there some legal issues if we don't do a mini RFP?
When you say legal issues, if
are there any?
What's pending before the committee today on the 245 is a veto or a non-veto.
Right.
That under the charter section 245, that's the only choice, is a veto or a non-veto.
Right.
Or I could ask for more information too.
Oh yes.
If I'm not clear, and then I want to have it right.
Yes.
So just one question too, and I do appreciate Los Angeles companies, but did they have an opportunity to know this was happening? Was this posted at a commission board meeting?
Or any other companies?
Yeah, I mean there was and I forget which meeting in May it was. We posted in advance that we were planning to award the contract to AWG. We subsequently deferred that item from that board meeting over some technicalities having nothing to do with this process. And then we reintroduced the item, I think, at the July 4th meeting. So, June 4th. Thank you.
June 4th.
So there were 2 board meetings where it was posted, agendized. The same board report was used in both cases. And then the board approved it on June 4th. And then we had another board meeting on June 6th, which was a one-issue board meeting, namely the Westfield contract. And the gentleman from Boingo spoke in public session at that meeting about what had happened in the prior meeting. but it had been posted in 2 board meetings, acted on in 1, and Boingo appeared in the 3rd.
Very good. Any other questions for Los Angeles Airport officials? All right, now, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, it's been a healthy discussion here. Let me just start with the city attorney there. You heard what he said about a couple of snags or roadblocks or whatever. Would you explain the process you went through, and if Boingo, whatever it is, that has this report here for us that we just got today, obviously, the question is, you know them, everybody knows them, and they were going to be a click away on this other system here. I don't understand how the connection ever got one click to others so everybody could know we were doing something in this process. I've been pushing this for years, and no matter what happens, we better have Wi-Fi. I don't care if it's for free or for pay, but how dare we not have something in place? And frankly, the idea that somebody's pulling out and we don't have something in place is unacceptable to me. So we're going to go forward, be it with a mini thing or a major thing, but I'm not going to wait another day. But I need to know first the legal issues, then I need the operational issues about how the system goes.
No.
You heard everybody speak. Answer it.
I did. With regard to the process that the department went through,
Please.
They approached JC2Co, and JC2Co needed a contract for Wi-Fi that would extend beyond the JC2Co contract. And because it would have been a subcontract, you cannot have a contract that extends beyond, a subcontract that extends beyond the length of the original contract. And that's the reason that the JC2Co Boingo discussions with the department collapsed, if that's the
Okay, when did it collapse?
My understanding is that the discussions with JC2Co for the Wi-Fi collapsed in January of this year. The department then sought out a contract for Wi-Fi at the airport as a bridge.
I understand that. But when it collapsed
Yes.
in January,
Yes.
why did it collapse? Because they were a click away, this Biongo bit, to get right into the system. I don't understand that.
Well, it's our understanding that the length of the term that JC2Co wanted for an investment process was longer than the term of the contract that the department had with JC2Co. And therefore, the contract for the sponsorship of Wi-Fi could not go beyond the JC2Co contract, and that's the reason it stopped.
Okay, but then in that context, if T-Mobile, which is a paid provider,
That's correct. That's correct.
The worst case, people could pay $10 and get on the system.
Yes.
Now, when they decided they're pulling the plug, why did they decide they're pulling the plug? How did we get into this? How come we're backed up against the wall? It's totally irresponsible.
Okay. The T-Mobile contract was for a set period of time, and the set period of time has extinguished. And T-Mobile has been staying on at the department, supplying wireless internet on a month-to-month basis until such time as the department can get somebody.
For how long has that been the case?
I understand it's been since...
Understand or you know? I mean, we
Well,
can't play games here anymore.
I'm not playing games, Councilman. What I'm saying, though, is my understanding is that the T-Mobile contract terminated either the end of September of 2011 or the beginning of October in 2011. I can't tell you specifically, I just don't know. And since that period of time when the T-Mobile contract terminated, they've been on a month-to-month holdover until such time, accommodating the department until such time as the department could have a new wireless system in place. The T-Mobile, as I understand it, is getting out of the business of Wi-Fi at airports as they currently have it. And they sent a letter to the department saying that as of a certain date, I think it is either July 15th or maybe shortly thereafter, that they are withdrawing from the department altogether. They are not going to be going forward with this month-to-month basis. So back in end of September, 1st of October, when the department started negotiating with JC2Co to have the wireless internet, that process went through until it collapsed in January of 2012.
But why, when they decided they were going to go month to month, at that very moment in time, you didn't just issue an RFP, go through a process, let everybody apply, all that kind of stuff?
Well, Councilman, I'm Assistant General Counsel for the Department of Airports. We give legal advice. We do not give management
Okay,
decisions.
that would be for management then, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, we, when we found out, when the T-Mobile contract was expiring, we went to the JC2Co avenue to try to have sponsored Wi-Fi, and we thought that was going to work. When the deal came back to us as needing a longer term than the term of the JC2Co contract, the city attorney said that can't be done. That is in February of this year. We got an email from JC2Co saying we and our subcontractor can't do this deal for that short of a term. Their subcontractor on an exclusive basis was Boingo. So
In other words, city attorney had one set of opinions and strategy, and then they went to another set of opinions and strategies. And from an operational end, was that frustrating or not, or were we all trying to learn as we go along in life? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we've had agreements in the past where, and the example is the Rolex clocks at the airport are sponsored clocks. When the JC2Co agreement ends, the agreement on the Rolex clocks goes beyond the term, and the agreement is assigned to the city. So it's not JC2Co. The city attorney ruled that we couldn't do that kind of structure anymore, and that ruling was in January or February. And so that's when we kind of found ourselves caught out, that we had assumed that we could do a structure similar to the Rolex sponsorship deal for free Wi-Fi, and it turned out late in the game we found out that we couldn't.
Okay, so late in the game you found that out, and so this is the only method that you can do to get, because I'm worried, I do not want one day without Wi-Fi at that airport. And that is my biggest concern. I do not want a person to get off of a plane from anywhere on earth and switching planes and can't even get online. I mean, we're living in a world that this is as critical as a telephone used to be or whatever. That is my concern. And now, are we up against the clock, and legally, basically, you're saying we either go this way or we're subject to maybe an AT&T wanting to apply and this one and that, which I'm all for due process and opening up the door for everybody and being competitive. But how far does the city attorney's office feel they are on that aspect? And what is the operational thing about when does it go dark if we don't have something in place, which I will not tolerate?
It'll go dark July 16th if we don't have another provider in place.
In place by the 16th?
July 16th, yes.
Operationally, can we do that in any other method at this point?
I don't see any way to do it. If the city council, I should let the city attorney speak, the city council vetoes what the Board of Airport Commissioners voted for, we would wind up back in front of the Board of Air Commissioners deciding what the path is going to be on July 9th, which is their next meeting.
No, we don't have time for that. Is that correct, operationally?
Yeah, we don't have. The July 9th is the next time we could talk to the Board of Airport Commissioners about this issue if it's overturned by council. And it's going to expire on July 16th.
Okay, City Attorney, would you respond to the appreciation of the process you went through? Because I'm not going to stop this. I mean, I personally haven't talked to this about to my colleagues, but I'm going to vote to approve what we had gone through as a process, period. And I dare say, if that's the only way to get Wi-Fi in there, we've got to do it. I mean, I just want to know legally if we have solid ground, or can we open it up for a day or two like McCosker's suggesting and blah, 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 or not?
Based upon the information that was given to the city attorney's office by the board, I'm sorry, I strike that, by the department, prior to the board acting on the 371E motion, we believe that the Board of Airport Commissioners acted totally within the purview of the board, and we are in solid ground.
We're in solid ground.
That's our opinion.
And operationally, without it, the switch will go dark.
Yes, if it's overturned, we will have no Wi-Fi on July 16th.
Okay, and you guys are obviously going to want to participate in the bidding process as everybody else, but I am not going to let the airport go dark. It's as simple as that, under any circumstances. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm still troubled by why can't we do this sole source in a 2-week RFP process? I'm looking at my calendar now. Today's the 18th. We can have something back by July 2nd for the July 9th board meeting. Can you answer that question? I know we didn't do it in the past, but I'm looking here, and of Boingo's willing and ready to pay 32% more in payments. Who knows if there's another company out there that will pay 50% more in payments? That's going to be strike the best deal for our airport and for the city.
Two answers. One is if the council overturns the Board of Airport Commissioners, we're going to go back to the Board of Airport Commissioners and get them to approve the way forward. We're not going to do it without their consent, and the next time they meet is July 9th.
And we're at recess.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is the bridge deal that we're trying to structure is more service-oriented than income-oriented. The distributed antenna system, which I said before is a $20 million investment, we expect to see that be our better payday. And so we're really focusing our energy on getting that RFP out the door. If we wind up going back and doing an RFP on this exercise, that'll simply delay the other one, which is the big payday in our view. So yes, could we in theory get my money for the next 2 years? Yes, but we'll be dark for a period of, I would guess 3 months or more.
No, that's troubling for me as well, but at the same token, if we can strike the better deal here and make more money, that's what we're striving. It's our duty as elected officials to find the best deal and to make sure it's lucrative not only for the airport but for the city.
All I can say is that if we want to make more money, we will go dark for a while.
I just want to comment on that, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Look, it's a small world and it's a big world at the same time. This bingo business is on the stock exchange. They're all over the place. They were hanging around with this Dakota thing. I just can't believe you didn't know about enough at a certain point within this process. And if my city attorneys are saying it's been done by the book through a legal process, I don't want a day to go dark. I don't even want the apprehension of it going dark. And that's the clarity I want to stand for. And as Mr. Laban just said more than once, the process will open up. Everybody will have a chance to get it. I do not want to see a gameplay and one day without it. If this had been thrown to us a year and a half ago and it was this and that and the other, but then the last minute, and I must say that it was healthy to have a conversation in council. But the clarity that we've just gotten in here in committee from our city attorney's office, from a potential vendor, clearly makes me say, we're going to go forward with the existing group, and we've got to get it lit up and stay lit up, and then go through a wide open process and let everybody participate. And if it takes a year or it takes 2 years, so be it. If this is such a big group all over the country, the other one's such a big group, they'll figure it out over time. But I'm not going to be stopped from this simple reality that we need Wi-Fi at that airport another day. So I just apologize for being that angry about it. But I can say, city attorneys, if you're going to defend us through this process and we did it right, I can't play any games at this point, and they can wait a little bit or two until they come back in a competitive sense. Any others?
Yeah, just recently a pipeline for a hydrant broke in the Hollywood Hills at Warstow City Road to Mount Lee, which is where the communication system is, and Mount Lee Road. And city engineer is doing the thinking attached to an existing contract, got the road fixed in a short order of time. If we had to bid that, it would still not have been fixed in the state, and this is probably 90 days ago. What's the fastest RFP you've known in
Well, the fastest one that we can do in a normal sort of procurement process following the procurement rules that are the policies of the department is probably 6 months to 9 months.
Right, so there's a reason there it's that for there. Okay, thank you on that question there. I'm concerned everybody's a good person, but right now we have a choice. Are we going to get home with the opportunity that the city attorney's reviewed, or we're going to have to sit around and figure out another way which may bring other problems forth? Mr. Buscaino.
Thanks.
Wants to ask for more questions from Boingo.
If I can get a representative from Boingo. I know, like Mr. Rosendahl alluded to, we just got this morning here, and if I can just get, it says here, as I indicated a few minutes ago, that Boingo is ready and willing to pay 32% more in payments. With this figure, how do you guys expect to make some money?
We don't necessarily. LA is strategic to us. It's our home airport. It's really not about the money. We heard two compelling reasons why Boingo may be a no-go. There are some legal reasons and there's time reasons. So these legal reasons. I want to point out that the executed agreement with AWG is completely non-exclusive. You can negotiate with whoever you want. The airport can do whatever they want. The one really good thing about that contract is it reserves a lot of power for the executive director. And if we had any relationship with the airport, that might be a benefit to us. The executive director can initiate negotiations with us or AT&T at the same time as this contract is live. So there's no need to hold it up and talk to us. If they haven't spent any money, there's no damage in it. You don't need to repay anything back.
You're also committing to minimum investment of $800,000 and up to $2.5 million over 3 years, and an installation of the latest Wi-Fi technology. How quickly would you be able to get the system up and running?
We can do it very quickly. In fact, one of the things we did is, in anticipation of T-Mobile service ending, in November of last year, we applied for new T1 circuits to take over that service. So this going dark issue.
So you won't go dark?
What's that?
You said there won't be any dark issues?
There's no dark issue because we already ordered the T1 circuits to sustain T-Mobile service. They're at the airport right now waiting for our testing. But we were told by JC2Co, there's no deal, wait for the RFP. So we had no contact with the airport to know what was going on. But the equipment, the T1 lines are there to sustain the T-Mobile service today.
But Councilman Rosenwald made a good point. At any point, you guys weren't even aware of this through public records or Brown Act?
Well, the answer is no. I mean, let's go back to the JC2Co. They would be the primary provider. Boingo would have been a subcontractor in that circumstance. JC2Co comes back and says there is not going to be a deal now. There's going to be an RFP in the future. Our office then communicates by email in March to the airport saying, how are we going to move forward? We'd like to be involved. We want to be in the RFP process. No response back. On this notice, this constructive notice, and it is constructive notice, an agenda was posted for an earlier meeting, I'm sure. I will believe that was the testimony. But for the June 4th meeting, it was a consent calendar item. There was no public meeting notice, no specific notice to somebody like a Boingo who has already expressed an interest. And I will also say, doesn't it strike you as odd that there is this whole JC2Co question, and there's city attorneys and there's clients and they're talking about it, and then they realize they've got a problem, and instead of picking up the phone and saying we want to do a direct negotiation with Boingo, the party that presumably was interested, we go to San Francisco for a piggyback that we don't use in Florida for a service. The only notice was constructive notice, and the way these guys found out was a press release. I will also, can I address one other issue on this issue of going dark? I mean, I think what you just heard was a game of chicken. When you ask the question, would you go dark, and the answer is, well, our next meeting is July 9th. If the airport wants to have a next meeting, it's tomorrow. I mean, that happened on Westfield on 48 hours notice. You know, I was one of the parties that came back.
You're being critical of the airport commission. They're not even here, so I would hold your critique.
I'm not being critical at all. I'm just saying.
You understand how government works.
The short answer is it can move, and this is a game of chicken that you're being told you'll go dark, and there are a lot of alternatives.
Careful about my chickens, buddy.
Yeah, no. I love chickens, but I will also say, if you're being told that you can make a finding to do a sole source negotiation, nobody gets noticed except one party. Then you can also make the findings to do a quick RFQ process, or RFQ process. And this 6-month, there are circumstances in the city of Los Angeles where certain parties are picked out and a quick negotiation is conducted, and you come back with proposals and you choose the best alternative for the city. It happens with lawyers, it happens with law firms, it happens with a lot of service contracts.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Look, I move that we forthwith back to council, explain that the city attorneys have explained the process they went through, and award this contract as prepared, and we schedule a date for the entire open process so competitive bidding on this other angle can happen. But I'm not going to play chicken and egg or games of any kind. The council goes into recess. There was plenty of time over the years. You've had more time to talk now than then, I mean, you know, it's kind of odd, this whole process at this last minute, and you guys are so smart and so engaged and everything, and you guys don't know nothing. Look, there'll be 10 other vendors will say the same line you have said. So let's appreciate the process the airport went through. Let's look at the process from that angle and cool your heels for a bit while we go through this, get it up, keep it running. I don't want no quick hit from anybody at this point, because it's a disservice to the flying public and to the city of Los Angeles. So my position is very clear, Mr. Chair. I've just expressed it.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to ask Mr. Big Joe, do you have any other questions?
No other questions, but I do have a recommendation, but...
What's your recommendation?
Well, I know I'm not going to have the support here before we go to...
No, I'm in the middle.
Oh, you're in the middle.
You're making, you know...
I would just move forward and see how this plans out. I do... My thoughts is to request a minority report on this matter and be sent back to the Airport Commission with the recommendation that LAWA seek a better deal for this public Wi-Fi contract, whether that be through awarding it to a different company or by initiating a competitive bidding process with an expedited timetable, for example, a quick 2-week RFP.
I just asked a technical question. Is there such thing as a minority report on this?
Just we'll have to take the vote.
The clerk should be able to answer that.
Can you restate the question?
Yeah. On this vote, because some people are feeling one way, some are feeling another way. If there's a dissenting vote and they want to issue a report, can they issue a report?
Yes, a minority report can be submitted, as long as 2 members vote one way and one votes the other way.
Right, the other way. Good, okay, good. Okay, Joe.
That's if we go that way.
Yeah, that's if you go that way. But absolutely, I believe in the airport department, and I like you folks, okay? And if I'm looking for business, I'm on the street every day looking for business. I'm not waiting for an email, a phone call, or nothing. I'm in the face of the clerk, of the Record Parks Commission, of the Public Works Commission, of the Airport Commission, of the Harbor Commission, all the time. That's what I would do if I was where you're sitting. But I'm a council member, so I'm a chair of a committee, and I rely on staff, and I rely on the city attorney. And I think what Mr. Rosendahl stated, and due respect to Mr. Buscaino, I am going to second Mr. Rosendahl's motion that we, what's the proper term?
To affirm. To affirm the findings of the board.
Of the board, and move forward and reject your nice offer of going south on Sepulveda to the airport and fixing Wi-Fi real soon. We want you back when it opens wide up. I would not vote for this, just to let you know. If this was like a long-term deal, this is a short-term deal. I think there's much work that needs to be done at the airport, and when that is completed, let it open up to every horse that wants to run, and then let there be a real big process. But right now, and I know the passion that Mr. Rosendahl has expressed over the years about trying to get Wi-Fi in the airport, now this happens to be a shot at it. That's what I think we should go ahead on. So you could write your objecting report.
It's not the film. It's
not
the actual report.
Actual report. You could write it. You got to start off, Dear Tom.
Chair, can we schedule it for Tuesday's council meeting?
Well, I think we held a place. Ms. Schechter, you worked hard at that. When's our next?
Yes, we have a placeholder for Wednesday, June 20th right now.
Okay.
June when?
June 20th, Wednesday. This
20th.
Wednesday.
You know what June 20th is, Mr. Clerk?
This week.
I know.
Summer solstice.
Summer solstice. Very good. It's very important. Longest day of the year.
In the afternoon.
All right, good. All right, so with that, we got that down. We want to thank everybody's participation. Any other public comment? And this matter is adjourned with that recommendation going forward to council. Thank you.
First issue, Harbor.
Exactly.